Hello, my name's Kevin, this is Dirty 20 Gaming, and this video is about multiclassing. It took me a while to get around to doing this video because I have an irrational dislike of multiclassing. I almost never do it, and when I do, it usually doesn't feel right. So I had to get over myself, give myself a little talking to, and then apply some reasonable thought to this before I made this video. So, I'm sure it will come as no surprise to anyone that's seen any of these other videos in this series that I think if you're going to multiclass, it should be driven by your story arc or by the narrative of the tale that you're telling, and sometimes by the game mechanics themselves. I will explain. First of all, reasons to multiclass, reasons to do it. This is not by any stretch of the imagination an exhaustive list. Please share if you have others. But just as a few examples, first we're going to do some story reasons for multiclassing, and then we're going to do some game mechanic reasons. So story reasons first. Probably the most extreme case would be if you're going to do the story arc finding a new way. If you remember from previous videos, in this one, your character gets to sort of level 2 or 3 and then says, no, I can't do this. I can't be a druid anymore, or I can't be a paladin anymore. I need to change. And so they give up everything about that previous life and start all over as a level 1 character in a new class. So obviously, if you're going to multi-class like that, you only take a couple levels in the first class, and then you never upgrade them again. And if you want to play that character really seriously, you probably never use those skills again because you've given up that life. That is an extreme case. A slightly less extreme case would be in character development. You're playing a militant cleric, and one day he just loses it and picks up a mace and a shield, puts on heavy armor, and steps out the door of the church and just starts making mayhem on the unbelievers. So take a couple levels of Paladin in this while he works through this process. At some point, he's probably going to figure out that he's gone too far and he needs to make amends, which is a good time to switch back and start taking levels of Cleric again. And you can bounce back and forth when the story makes sense from Paladin to Cleric, Cleric to Paladin, and continue to tell that story until, hopefully, that character figures out a way to balance those two sides of who they are. There's also the inevitable multi-class. For example, your backstory is that you were an urchin who made your way by stealing until one day, to escape that life, you joined the army. So pretty much by definition, you're a rogue fighter. Now it's up to you at this point whether you want to do the finding a new way story arc, in which case you completely deny all of those roguish skills, whether you want to work them together and sort of use those roguish skills to make you a better fighter, or if at some point in the future you want this character to embrace their inner rogue and start taking levels of rogue again after having been a fighter for a number of levels. Those are all legitimate. They all make sense to me. There's also the realism argument. This is a little different. This is the argument that few people in the world are specialists. Most people have more than one set of skills, so to represent that in your character, you multi-class, and I'm perfectly okay with that too. Now there's game mechanic reasons for doing this. One of them is to explore a blend. Part of my process in making this video was to create a multi-class character that I actually liked. And I came up with a monklock, for lack of a better phrase. This is a Pact of the Blade warlock monk combination. I built them out to level 6 just to see what was happening, and he's turning into an absolute killing machine. But I alternated levels. I did one level of monk, one level of warlock, one level of monk, one level of warlock. It's definitely not the optimal way to level up, but if that's what you want to explore, is this blend between the two, then, commit and explore it, right? And make your character better later. Now there's another case here, the utility character. And this is where the line starts to get hazy and fuzzy for me. Because building a character designed to explore what it's like to be pretty good at a lot of things seems reasonable to me. But building a character whose purpose is to make sure that the party is well-rounded and doesn't have any glaring weaknesses makes me start to head off into the corner and mutter things like stop trying to win D&D. So having said all of this and thought about it for a bit, I think the conclusion I've come to is that I'm only against multiclassing when it's used to maximize character effectiveness rather than to reflect character development. So in other words, taking 2 levels of fighter just for second wind and action surge, or taking 2 levels of rogue just for sneak attack and cunning action. I also don't like it when it's used to cover gaps. In other words, when it's used to make the party stronger instead of making a more realistic or interesting character. So I guess what I'm saying, my point is that, in my opinion, you should always have a good narrative reason, not only to multiclass in the first place, but also you should also have reasons for which classes you're choosing and what class you level up at what time. So that's the end of the rant on this. Thanks for listening, and until next time, as always, game creatively. Bye.